am State Representative Dianne Hart, and I'm the host of the opening statement. Tonight, I have the awesome pleasure interviewing a phenomenal man, a gentleman that really doesn't need any introduction. I am just so excited about having Mr. Clay Drayton on Tampa Bay TV. He's literally going to talk about his life and some of the things that would help you be better if you were in this industry. Thank you so much for joining me.
It's a pleasure to be on your show, and it's good to see you. Happy New Year.
Same to you. Let's just get started. Let's talk a little bit about where were you born? How did you get to where you are today?
I was born in Jacksonville, Florida.
Floridian people.
Yes. My parents, because of segregation, we went to a school that was all African American. And if you drank from a fountain, it says colored or white, and you better know the color. We went to the beach. It was just sand on the area for colored. And on the other side for white had all the rides and all the fun stuff. The opportunities were not great work-wise for people of color. So my mom and dad decided to move up north to Newark, New Jersey. Along the way, I would say, hey, Dad, can we stop at that restaurant? And he said, no, white only. And we have to drive on. We said, can we stay at that motel? No, white only. So all the way to New Jersey, we'd see things like that. When we got to Jersey, I went to Lafayette Street School, my sister and I. You walk in and there's every color of the rainbow. So I went to school with Cubans, people from Venezuela, from Mexico, from France, from Brazil, Portugal. It was great.
And it's ironic that this is how you started this interview, because typically Black History Month is February. This month, for me and my colleagues in the Florida House of Representatives, we are celebrating Black History Month, the month of January.
Good.
You just gave some real true history. When that happened, see, right here in Florida, I had to go to the colored only water fountain. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Better help you understand why your parents had not stopped on your way up to New Jersey.
Yes, because if it said white only, you could not come in at all. We had to just keep going until we found a place. Mom knew that would happen, and so she had fried chicken. And you know, cold fried chicken tastes so good.
Mom. It is so good. I know.
Yes.
So, okay, so you get to the school and you see all these children of all nationalities and all colors. What were you thinking walking into that school? What was going through your mind?
The first thing was, wow. It was unbelievable because all I knew was that you went to school with people of your same color. But not only that, in the South, if you had issues of being a good student, they'd take you into the closet and they would spank you. In New Jersey, they didn't do that.
Probably needed it, but they didn't do it.
Yeah, and I can recall when my friend Robert, he had just came in from Virginia as a new student, and then he did something and he started crying because he thought that they were going to whip him because that's where he came from. But it was good. I think one of the most memorable moments about coming to New Jersey from the South is that we had never seen snow. When we came outside and it was snowing, we were walking around going, wow, and we stuck our tongues out so we could catch the snow on our tongues, playing, throwing snowballs and things like that. It was a change, not only as it relates to going to school with people who are not your color, but also we're experiencing cold weather and snow that sometimes went up to about 4 feet high.
Wow. At what age were you when you all went up to New Jersey?
I believe I was about 8 years old. My brother was 6. My sister was 10. We all grew up together and we adapted well to it. The challenge was that when it got cold or snowy, because my parents were poor, if you had holes in the soles of your shoes, we would put cardboard in it. And we'd have to go to school. And of course, the cardboard would get wet and then our feet would get wet and cold. That was one of the drawbacks, but we made it through. Our parents did what they could. On the inside, I always said, I'm not going to live like this all my life.
That's right. after high school, or did you get into music in high school? What kind of led you to where you are today?
It was a high school that you had to be an artist or musician, like that TV show Fame. I was very good at art. I'm in there studying art. At age 15, a friend of mine who was a drummer came over to the house and he was playing with an adult band. The band leader said, play. Our bass player left the group. We need a bass player. Do you play the bass? I said, yes. And he said, great. I said, but I don't have one. That's because I never played a bass and I never even owned a bass. I saw this as an opportunity to get out of poverty. And I was willing to take that risk. And so he said, look, I have a bass guitar at my home. I'll go and get it and I'll get the guitars from the band. And he's going to teach you the songs. And by the way, you've got to be ready to play tonight. We're going to pick you up at 7:00 because we play at 9. I had to learn how to play the bass. I had to learn the repertoire. And I had to be ready to play with sore fingers because it really hurts when you first learn how to play a string instrument like a bass. But I was so anxious that I didn't even worry about the pain in my fingers. Played that night, stumbled through it. The next night, it got a little better the next night. And then they said, we'll try you out one more week. That week, I practiced and practiced. My fingers got better. They said, hey, you're doing much better. I think we're going to keep you as our bass player.
Wow. That shows what persistence will do. And I heard you say you never said no.
That's right. Even when we first got there to New Jersey, we had the mentality of working. And my brother and I would sell newspapers down the street from the house, and we shine shoes. There's a lot of taverns around, so we make 25 cents for shining someone's shoes. That was our way of getting some money. It was also our bus fare to get to New York City and see the Motown Review and James Brown and Jackie Wilson, all those greats. Wow. Patti LaBelle sang Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Going to New York City and seeing all of those entertainers, and what was going through your mind?
I looked and I said, wow, I want to be a part of that. I would think about it during the week. And of course, everybody had Motown 45s that were 99 cents at that time. And as we're playing the songs, I'd be thinking and say, wow, I'd like to do that one day. And little did I know, by the age of 21 or 22, that I'd be writing for Motown.
How'd that happen?
Oh, magic. Ding. No.
You dropped it in the universe and it answered.
God had a plan for my life. That's why I was able to see the Motown artists and feel drawn to that. That became a desire of mine. I think the first inclination of that was we went to church and the Staples singers were at our church and they were singing. And I looked and I saw Pop Staples playing the guitar and I was mesmerized. I was maybe 12 years old. I said, wow, I'd love to play the guitar. I told my parents, I said, can you guys buy me a guitar? They said, okay, next Christmas. Next Christmas, they got something else that was it was always a toy. When I went to high school, I was just going for art and not music until they came to the house looking for a bass player. And everything began to come together at that point. Eventually, I became a very good bass player, and then I got my own band. They were called Soul Excitement. 6 pieces, guitar, bass, keyboard, drums. We were playing at different clubs and different places in New Jersey and in New York City. While we were playing, Dionne Warwick's sister Dee Dee came into the club and she had some hits. She came to me and she said, Clay, I love the way you guys sound. Would you guys like to be my backup band? And I said, sure. So we did some touring. And when we came back into town, she said, Clay, on the next tour, I'm only going to take the guitars because it cost me too much money to pay 6 musicians. I decided, okay, I'm not going to get bitter. I'm going to get better. And that's a lesson for everybody. Stuff is going to happen to you that is distasteful, but you don't have to get bitter. You can get better. So I bought a Fender guitar, which is the standard of guitars. And I made myself learn how to really play it and be able to play her repertoire. So when she came back into town, I said, Didi, I got something I want you to hear. She said, sure, come on over. So, and when I pulled out the guitar, she says, hey, I thought you played the bass. I said, listen to this. And I began to play her whole repertoire because I already knew it as a bass player, right. But now as a guitarist, she said, wow. And she started singing along with me. And she said, you know, Clay, I'm hiring you and I'm firing the other guitar player. We began to tour, and I was her music director, teach the band in different countries or cities we were in. Eventually, we did a show in Chicago. And in Chicago, we hired this keyboard player named Mark. And he said, well, Clay, instead of staying at the hotel for the next 2 weeks, why don't you come with me to the recording studio and just hang out? And so that's what I did. And we became good friends over that 2-week period. And when everything was over, he said, well, where are you going next? I said, well, we're going to Africa. He said, well, I'm moving my family to California. So if you're ever in California, give me a call. I said to myself, sure, I'm not going there. I'm going to Africa. We started rehearsing for the trip, the tour to Africa. And then in the middle of all of that, I get a call from Didi. She said, Clay, the tour's been canceled. Instead, we're going to be going to Las Vegas for 6 weeks. I said, great. I've never been to Vegas. This will be fun. So we get there and things are going well. And after 3 weeks, she said, hey, we have a week off. So Dianne lives in Bel Air, California. I want to go and see Dianne. I haven't seen my sister in a long time. You want to go? I said, sure. So we flew in to California. And then while we're there and hanging out, one morning I got up and I looked outside and the sky was so blue. And I said to myself, I'm moving to California. I'm not going back to New Jersey, period. And so that's right. We finished Las Vegas and I got on the plane and I headed into California, in Hollywood. I wanted to go to Hollywood and got an apartment. And when I walked out the door with the keys to my new apartment, I heard someone say, Clay. And I'm going, who would know me? I just got here. And it turned out to be Mark, who said, if you're ever in California, give me a call. That's a divine situation there. Absolutely. You know, it was meant to happen because if he had driven 5 miles per hour faster, he would have missed me. If he went another block in the other direction, he would have missed me. If he had looked to the right instead of the left, he wouldn't have seen me. He could have looked up and said, hey, that looks like Clay, but Clay is in Africa. Right. He pulls over. He's driving a van. How do you see somebody when you're driving in a van? So intervention. Yes. If you look at it, it's like God did, just like that. Perfect timing. Right. He said, Clay, what are you doing here? I said, I just got my apartment. He said, yeah. I said, look at my keys, man. I just got my apartment. He said, hey, listen, I'm producing Marvin Gaye and Diana Ross for Motown. Would you like to write for Motown? I said, give me a couple of days to think about this. Really, no. Clay? Interestingly enough, he could have said, Clay, do you have any work for me? Because, you know, things are dry in California. He couldn't get anything to happen. But here he was assigned as a record producer and wanted to sign me to Motown. People were giving away their firstborn to write or be a part of Motown. And I've seen people do some stuff while I was there to try to get to Motown. I won't say what they did, but I'm telling you. I can only imagine. There you go. And I was there for 7 years. You know, I could have bombed, got there, and they said, well, he can't write. And in fact, for the first few weeks after I signed to Motown, I couldn't reach Mark. And I couldn't believe. I said, well, let me go to Motown and sit in the lobby and hopefully I'll see him. So I was in the area, you've got the receptionist and you got the small little office, and then you'd see Smokey Robinson come in and go through the door. You'd see Stevie Wonder come in. He didn't see me, but he went on in. Some of the Temptations come in. And I'm seeing all of this, and it's like I was nothing. No one even looked in my direction. I did that every day for weeks. See, a lot of times people give up so quickly. I could have gone back home and said, the heck with this, I don't need this. But I saw it as an opportunity. I ain't going nowhere.
I know that's right. Persistence.
Yep, they're going to see me.
Oh, that's right.
And one day, Hal Davis, one of their producers who had a lot of hit records, he walked in and he said, hey, what's your name? I said, Clay. He said, you got some hits? I said, yes. He said, come with me. And I followed him through this door that I'd seen so many people walk through. It's like the sunshine when the door opened.
Oh, that's right.
And so I followed him. And as I'm going through the office area, I see Stevie Wonder in his office playing some music, and I see Smokey in his office. I see Norman Whitfield doing some Temptation stuff. It's like I'm in heaven. I'm a 21-year-old kid looking at the Jackson 5. They had their TV show, their cartoon on TV, and all of the folks. I said, wow, I'm a part of this. So I get on into his office. He said, sit down. Let me hear what you have. And I pull out my guitar and I started playing, and I'm not a singer, but I did the best I could. And halfway through the song, he said, wow, that's a hit.
I know that's right.
And he said, you got any more? And I played something else. He said, that's a hit too. So he became my mentor. He was the one that got me on the Jackson 5, Diana Ross, Jermaine Jackson, so many others. I was Janet Jackson's first record producer.
A young boy from Florida, but had loving parents who obviously taught you great work ethics.
Yeah.
So they prepared you for the world, even though they probably had no idea you would be the person that you are today. They knew you'd be great, but not what you would be doing, I'm sure.
No, in fact, what's funny is that when I was playing in bands, my father said, why don't you get a real job? I'm at Motown in 3 hours. I'm making more money than he's making in 5 days.
What did he say about that?
I don't even remember, because once I was there, I was gone for a while. Communication was, remember, long distance calls were very expensive. So I remember the watch line. Motown had a watch line. And so I would call, hey, Mom, how you doing? Or whoever was home. And that was it. They were happy, I'm sure. Even the pastor's daughter that I really loved as a kid, she wouldn't give me the time of day. She told my sister, me and your brother have some unfinished business.
I bet we do. He got some paper now, so we definitely have some unfinished business.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about the albums behind you on the wall.
Interesting. I want to start with these two. This is the one I recorded when I had my band back in New Jersey. It was my first recording. This is the first one that went gold. Diana Ross on Motown. So these are two of the firsts in my hand. But behind me, you see the small one, that's Diana Ross, Love Hangover. The whole album, that's gold on Diana Ross. I have Lenny Williams from Tower Power. I have the Jackson 5 album and several other. I have the platinum for the Jackson 5. It's been really good because I look at myself as being very blessed, because there's so many people that tried to make it and are still trying to make it. My goal is to help them. I have an online songwriting course called 7 Secrets to Hit Songwriting. I have over 4,000 students in over 100 countries right now.
Can you teach me anything?
What people don't realize is everyone is a songwriter, because songs are only thoughts. It's what you do with those thoughts that make a difference. I believe that Bill Gates wasn't the first one that had the idea for Microsoft, for the internet. I believe it went to someone else and they said, I'm busy. Another said, I can't do this. I don't have the money. All of that. I have a product that drummers use around the world that the Lord gave to me in a vision. What happened happened is I got up at 2:30 in the morning, and instead of saying, "Oh, I don't have it," and I got up, I went into my office, I drew it out because I went to art school. I made it out of paper, and then I said, wow. And then the Lord said, call Dan Shealy. I met him in Oregon years before that. I called him, and he said, hey, I'm a metal fabricator. Send me the dimensions and everything. Got it back to me. A lot of the major drummers are using it right now to keep their drums from sliding. The difference between me and others who have invented, everywhere you look, somebody invented that. It started as an idea, just like a song. And what you do with the idea, God may have given it to you first, but you didn't do anything about it. You went back to sleep.
And never went back.
Never went back. When I do seminars, and I've done a lot of seminars, I'll ask them, how many of you have seen a brand new product and then said, I thought about that years ago? Every hand went up.
Of course.
And so thank God for my wife.
Oh my. So you invented something that the drummers around the world can use.
This was a thought. And now drummers, if you can see it, they attach it to their drums.
Yes, and I've seen that. Hey, I know the man who did that now, right? I know the man who invented that.
Yeah, it's so important that when God gives you a vision, idea.
And I'm a firm believer, Clay, that if God gives you a vision, he'll give you a means to achieve it. He won't give you something that he won't allow you to do.
That's right. Just like telling a 2-year-old, here, do this math question. You know that child can't do it. God wouldn't do that to you. If he gives you the vision, run with it. Gives you the vision and the pro for the vision. So you've got the provision.
Yes, you do.
You know, all of my thoughts are in my book. Seize your success. All of everything I've talked about is in it. One of the phrases I like to use is failure is just a snack for those who are hungry for success. It's feeding time, but are you hungry?
I'm starving.
The reason I have a lion on this cover is because a lion will eat almost any animal, but any animal can walk up in front of a lion within 3 or 4 feet and the lion will do nothing. And you wonder why. Here's why. Either the lion's asleep or not hungry. That's the problem today why people don't succeed is they are asleep, video games and whatever, or they're just not hungry enough when someone say, can you do this? Yes, I can.
I know that's right. You're phenomenal. It touches my spirit because I know that I grew up, here in my community, and I was a 37-year business owner. And when I retired from my job, I just got up one morning and told everybody at my job, I'm going to retire. And they said I was crazy. I said, no, God's given me something and I'm going to pursue it. But they thought I had lost my mind. I was in my 20s. They were like, so what you going to do? I'm like, I'm not sure yet. But he has a plan for me. And it's not to be in corporate America the rest of my life. Now, you all might like to do this, but I don't. I need to be an entrepreneur. So no, you look, hey, I cannot wait for people to see and hear you because what you're saying is that God will provide.
Absolutely.
But you got to know it and believe it and feel it. Mm-hmm. And unless you make that connection, you won't know that.
Right. So, and you can't just give up because things get tough. Without ridges in a mountain, you'd never be able to climb it.
That's right.
So life has those ridges, those rough spots, and you've got to embrace the rough spots and just get over it.
Hey, you've given them all the nuggets. Listen, you don't give up. And if you have a dream, you better go out and pursue it because God wouldn't have given it to you without measure to be able to do it. We need more people like you teaching in our schools. Because what's happening to our children is that we're not telling them to pursue the dreams. We're saying, stop dreaming. But when you stop them from dreaming, then they lose that ability to do that.
That's right.
So many times we just don't have the right people in the front of our children.
What I like to do is I like to go to the schools and the colleges, and I'll take all of those gold records, every one of them. During my speech, when I'm talking, I'll bring them up. I said, here's one, here's another, because I kept on going. Here's another one, because I kept on going. Here's another. Right. And these are not the names of people who are obscure. These are names that everybody knows. It's all about not giving up and seeing every opportunity as a challenge that's going to give you the victory, a challenge that will take you to the next level, but you can't run away from a challenge.
Boy.
Embrace the challenges.
Wow. I thank you so much for interviewing with me this evening. Tell me a song that you'd like us to play.
It's going to be my first gold record on Diana Ross, Love Hangover.
I'd love to hear your very first song. I want to thank you again for coming on the opening statement. It is indeed a pure pleasure to have a gentleman like yourself. See, we didn't talk a lot as much about music as we have talked about how important it is to believe in yourself and your dreams. So you really have given them a real lesson, a real life lesson.
I do recommend that they get my book, Seize Your Success, if you want to hear more. And these are some of the stories I've talked about for the past few minutes. They're in here, my life stories and the challenges that I faced, and how I, as well as other people like Michael Jordan and others who faced challenges. The Rock, he was not able to, he didn't make the cut on an NFL team, but he's glad he's the biggest movie star out there making a whole lot of money. He doesn't have to get tackled.
Right. Thank your wife for helping us. I greatly appreciate her. I know that behind every great man, there is a great woman. You can't do it without us.
That's right. She told me in advance. She said, okay, Clay, in another hour, you're going to be on the Zoom. So you got to get everything together. You got to shave, change that shirt, put on something else, look presentable. Make sure the camera is facing the gold records. Turn off your phone.
All the parts that are necessary.
Let me go get one of your books.
Well, I'm going to certainly purchase your book.
It's on Amazon.
On Saturday morning, I'm on from 8 to 9. I'm on Facebook Live. I am going to make sure that Thomas gets this prepared for me so I can do it on my other show, on my Facebook show, and push your book.
I'd appreciate that.
No, I appreciate you taking the time to let me interview you today. I've truly enjoyed it. I will notify you of the date that we'll air my show, and I will also make sure that Thomas gives you the video.
Great. How long have you known Pete?
4 or 5 months ago. I had a little girl here in my city that was a rapper. She's 11 years old. I met Thomas through my cousin, Missy Love, who used to be with Kid Rock. That's how I met him. And I sent him some music. And he said, well, let me send it to Pete. And that's how I met Pete. So he sent it to Pete.
Oh.
Pete was like, yeah, we love her little music.
When I lived in Hollywood and I was at Motown, he worked for Motown. I don't know how we met, but we ended up hanging out together for a long time. Time passes and I hadn't seen him for years. And then we reconnected about a year or so ago. And then he called me to tell me about this.
Pete is a great guy. He's over in the Philippines. So I'm looking forward to getting an opportunity to go visit.
He's in Nevada until the end of the month.
Right. I was about to say he's now in it because he's getting some surgery and some other.
I'm going to go see him before he leaves.
That's good. I can't wait to tell them. Well, they'll get to see the video. Pete will see it too.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So now I need you to get on politics for me. I'm hoping that we can get the Biden people to actually bring on more Black entertainers as they're traveling around this country, trying to convince folk to vote. So
yes.
I mean, so I met that there's this girl, Sheila B. She's a Southern soul singer out of Florida. She's up in Tallahassee. In fact, she's going to perform for me on the 26th. But she's with Pete and those. I'm going to be trying to make sure that everywhere I go to encourage people to vote, that we're taking Black vote. Because listen, for me, y'all can't wait till October and come telling us you need some votes, because it's not going to work.
Right.
People are just not in that frame of mind right now. So I'm hoping that we can get them to pay entertainers to come in and surrogate for us, and because they can draw crowds.
Yes.
What this elections are about is getting as many people together as you possibly can. So that's kind of the direction I'm going to be going and started, because I have a campaign myself. This year I have an opponent. I was elected in 2018 and I've never had an opponent.
Wow, to never have an opponent. Wow.
So now I do. I have a Black Republican that just got in my race. It just means I have to work a little bit harder, but I work all the time. So that's nothing new for me. I'm prepared to do that.
Yeah, well, they're used to seeing you and hearing you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Okay, call me anytime. It's fine.
Thank you. And tell her I said thank you too.
Okay, I will.
I am State Representative Dianne Hart, and I'm the host of the opening statement. So thank you.
Thank you for watching the opening statement. I am your host, Dianne Hart. You can watch us every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. on the Lit TV network and the Tampa Bay channel. Thank you and good night.